And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of TokuTitanCast. I am your host, Davis Madol, also known as Titan Goji, and along with me, I got Sean from Shots of Japanese Cinema.
Rest in peace, Goromaki. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Spoiler alert.
and for the first time on TokuTitanCast, we have a good friend, Dr. Mafuni.
Hello there.
And
hello, Bay1.
I tried not to make that thing, but that's the only thing that came to my head.
And returning for another edition of TokuTitanCast is Yoko Higuchi of Resistance Pictures.
Hey everyone.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Good. It's a
all right.
Lazy Sunday night.
yeah.
Well, not lazy for me, but you know.
I gotcha. I'm see who we got in the chat here. We got Spiders Prime, Taco Snake, Isabella Rivero, Joe. I don't think I've seen you here before. Thank you so much for stopping by. Tokupunk Productions, Yoko Higuchi in the chat. Interesting. Don't know who that is. Bonus commentary, Jason G of Nerd Cage Live. What is up, my dude? Hero Dares Fire. Joey Sullivan the Man, what's up? Godzilla King of Kaiju. Josh the Hobo, don't think I've seen you here before. Welcome. So
is he a hobo with a shotgun?
Maybe, not sure. And we also got Shay Smithers, aka the Gojira Shay 1991. Thank y'all so much for stopping by. So in case you y'all can't read the title or something, we are here to do a 5-year look back on Shin Godzilla. But before we continue, I know a certain handful of people like to do super chats for when I do these streams, but I want to remind y'all, YouTube takes 30% of all super chats. So supporting me on Patreon through the link in the description, or just copy down what's on the ticker tape right there. That's definitely a much better means of supporting the channel. Let's wait. I just want to bring this up real quick. Jay says Anya Taylor-Joy is mad at you because he left it tonight for the show.
Hey Anya, babe, sorry, gotta do this thing with the boys. I'm sorry, hold on, just real quick. Sorry, guys.
By the way, Zack Snyder's bummed out that you're here and not retweeting his movies on Twitter tonight.
Well, listen, Zach, he knows I love him, so it's all good. But I feel like the missus is always with me, so she'll be here tonight with us. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. She's always here.
Alrighty, so we're all just gonna go around and talk about our experiences with Shin Godzilla, starting with you know what? Since he's a special guest, I'll have Yoko go first.
Oh boy, I had a feeling it was gonna be me. Definitely didn't work on this movie. I was only a spectator, obviously. But actually, today, Davis, 6 years ago was the first day I started working on Shin. It was August 1st, 2015. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so that memory kind of like flooded back. I was like, "Oh shit, I remember that day." And that was the day I got handed the script 6 years ago today. And obviously I could not read a word of it besides the words Shin Godzilla on the front. So I just sat in the office, I had the script just in front of me, and everyone else was reading it except me because I couldn't read it. And then I went to another room, and the line producer and the other producer was like, "Have you seen Japan Sinks?" I'm like, "I haven't yet." And he goes like, "Oh yeah, you have to see it. It's Shinji Higuchi." And then he just pops in the DVD and makes me watch it in the office. So that was my first day on set. It was just not reading the script and then just watching Japan Sinks. But yeah, it's been a long journey for me personally since I was on it. There was a lot of experiences I had on the set of that movie, and there's a lot of learning experiences and a lot of big culture gaps, I'd say, because I went in expecting things to be done in that traditional American Hollywood sense of filmmaking, but it was very different. I knew it was going to be different, but I didn't know the severity of how different it was. So that was kind of shocking. But there was so many things that happened on that set that really kind of matured me and taught me a lot of things about filmmaking. So that was honestly really great. And just meeting all these artists who are amazing and I'm so blessed to call my friends is just really, really a privilege. And those guys are awesome. And to this day, I still don't even know why they even remember me, but they just continue to meet me whenever I'm in Japan. So I'm super grateful for that. And the movie came out and it absolutely floored me. And obviously I am biased since I worked on it, but it really was just a surreal experience watching it in the theater and seeing a film that was as close to the 54 film as we had since, I think. And that was kind of the big shock, just seeing what Anno and Higuchi have done with Godzilla and how they brought the character into the 2010s, I guess, and retextualized him and just made him the most badass thing ever. And now Shin is everywhere. Everything is Shin, and every Japanese Godzilla project since has just been a Shin inspired spin-off, almost, like, in a way.
Especially Singular Point, which is
Singular Point.
Yeah, it's basically a spiritual successor to Shin, while not really connected.
Yeah, it's like
the closest thing to a Shin Godzilla sequel.
Yeah, because it's like if you take the politics of Shin and then just translate that into science for Singular Points, like that's all they talk about in Shin Godzilla is politics, and that's all they talk about in Singular Point is the physics and theoretical physics. So like it's really interesting to see how much Shin has impacted Toho and their choices in making Godzilla in the future. So long story short, it was just a really great surreal experience just all around with Shin, and it's a movie that I'll always kind of hold dear to my heart for various reasons.
That's awesome, dude. Very interesting because you mentioned that you watched Higuchi's remake of some version of Japan, basically your first day of working.
Yeah.
Which also happens to be the day the first Attack on Titan movie released.
I did watch. I think I went to Toho, and then that night I went to see Attack on Titan. I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I was like, that's my boss now, and I'm a Titan fan. I have to go see it. So I immediately went to the theater after I was at Toho, I think. Or it might have been the day before, or I don't remember. But like, I remember just leaving Toho and then going to see his version of Titan.
Nice. So we had Yoko Higuchi watching 2 Higuchi movies, then to work on a Higuchi and Anno production.
I mean, he's the boss. I gotta do my research.
Oh yeah. All right, Mafuni, what are your experiences with Shin Godzilla?
Well, dang, how do I follow that?
Sorry.
How do you follow that 007?
Just go ahead and say that you worked on the movie. No one can prove you wrong.
Yeah. That's all you want to say, right?
Shinji Higuchi does the Mission Impossible review.
Cue the Mission Impossible theme.
But yeah, I remember when this was announced. I think back in 2014. I think it was like late 2014, maybe it was around this time, because wait, no, it wasn't. Oh wait, how do I start? So I remember when it was first announced, I think they left like the footprint of Godzilla. Mm-hmm. Got that big reveal. I think another part of it was after that, where it was announced like, oh, Hideki Anno and Shinji Higuchi are working on this. It was on April 1st, which in America, that's obviously April Fool's Day. So everyone was like, is this real? Is this like a prank? Or I think this was before they did that whole Jet Jaguar April 1st thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I remember on that day, I think everyone was kind of like, oh, dang, this is like happening for real, because I've been a fan of I've been following but that's back when I was just still in Facebook, just following this stuff kind of trickling in. And I think for the longest time, because I remember I was always reading G-Fan magazine, how people have always asked, like, hey, when is Shinji Higuchi going to work on a Godzilla movie? Because, he did the Gamera trilogy. I think he at most was on set for GMK. I don't know if that was like a thing that was rumored that he worked on it a little bit or not. I forgot if that was true or not.
It was confirmed that he was on set, just that he didn't work on the movie.
Oh, okay. But yeah, everyone was kind of saying, when is this happening? And then now it's kind of finally happening. And of course, before this, I saw the Gamera trilogy and I saw Sayonara Jupiter, which he did work on. He probably doesn't like some of the stuff from that based on some of the experiences, but I was really impressed with what he brought with that. And I think at this point, the only Hideki Anno work I've ever seen was Evangelion, which I think it was pretty recently after that I watched just the show and the movie, the first series and the movie that came with it. So I was kind of interested to see what is this going to be like that. Obviously, young me, inexperienced me, watching one work by a guy and thinking like, oh, it's going to be like that, isn't it? But obviously, a whole bunch of other stuff I've never seen before from him, and even Higuchi, haven't seen less. I think this was before I saw the Attack on Titan movies. I think that's what Titan Goji introduced them to me. Then I started watching those.
You're welcome.
I think. I remember back then because it was crazy. Because at one point there was a leak. I'm not even sure if it was of the animatronic or of something. Because I think everyone. Are you the leaker? Were you the one who took that photo?
No. But funny enough that everyone thought it was me. Because the leak apparently came from the US and I was the American guy. So, and the leak happened on my birthday, 2016. So it was it was, and it was, I woke up on my birthday and I was with my ex at the time and I just woke up and my phone just blew up and they were everywhere. The photos were everywhere. But then I had that thought wait, if I leaked something, it would be so much more damaging than those 4 blurry photos that they had. Because the stuff I have are it's more stuff. So it was bad.
Yeah, I remember that because I think a lot of people were basing their impression of those because they weren't the most flattering pictures. I think I think that whatever they took a picture of, it looked kind of damaged, almost like it was older than the animatronic I think everyone knows about. So I think everyone was
the image quality. The image quality and lighting was shit.
Yeah, and I think there were all these crazy that was a crazy time because there was all these crazy theories going around saying everyone claimed that they're the leaker of these things. I think the weirdest one was that it's the regenerated 1954 Godzilla. Another one's it's the regenerated GMK Godzilla. And I'm like, hold up. Where is he going with this? But yeah, it was an interesting time, I think, because obviously I was born to the point where when I was growing up, around the time the Millennium movies were coming out, I wasn't savvy enough to actually go to the internet and look at information about these movies like I would be now. But to make a long story short, I did eventually go to see it because it was showing at a theater near me back at my college. I convinced my friend to take me. We were actually, I think, 5 minutes late. I remember we popped in right around one of the, I think it was when Rando Yaguchi was talking to someone post the whole sea breaking. And it was a cool experience because, one, I really liked the movie. To me, it was the kind of movie I wanted a long time because my first ever Godzilla movie was Godzilla 1985, the American version. Mm-hmm. And I always thought, because everyone else seemed to always be like, oh, a Godzilla movie with just him, that's not interesting enough for a movie. But I'm like, I want to see that again. I want to see one more time that comes out. And that kind of fulfilled that desire that I've always wanted to see. This is a movie that's just Godzilla, only Godzilla. And it's a lot like those movies, with the whole centering of the political side of things and the whole boardroom side of things. And also, this is where I show my age a bit. This was the second Japanese Godzilla movie I ever got to see in theater. I got to see Godzilla 2000 way back when, and this was kind of it's the second coming of that experience. So yeah, I don't know as much.
Well, I'll do you one better, Mafuni. I watched Monster Zero in theaters, even though it was at G Fest.
You were alive in 1965?
Yes. Believe it or not.
Got that
Well,
Benjamin Button thing going on.
I can top that. I was alive in 2016.
So yeah, I'm a. Are you finished, Mafuni, or do
Yeah,
you
I
have more
think-
stuff to say?
I think that's the best. I thought I'll go with that. That's like the best I'm ever gonna do.
All right. Before we continue on, I just want to say, Laura, thank you so much for popping in. She says, "I'm surprised that thing's not framed. You got to protect the waifu."
Well, listen, I got 2 copies of these, so listen, I have these protected. Don't worry, don't you worry.
And I also wanted to highlight this comment because normally I do like a little special thanks, like little shout out to like any new patrons in like future videos, and I just want to say, Laura, thank you so much for contributing to the Patreon page. It means so much to me,
And mine too.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Love you, Laura.
I also support Yoko on Patreon. So
Oh shit,
yeah.
you do? Oh my god, I didn't know that until now. Oh my god. All right, I got you back.
Let's see. Just looking through. Oh, Shinji Higuchi, the leak. I was betrayed by the other Higuchi.
Oh, listen, man.
There is a leaker among us.
There's been a leakening.
And it wasn't the aqua tunnel leaking.
Oh god.
Emergency meeting.
Emergency meeting. Who leaked it?
And bonus commentary says that I'm using the time travel tech from Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
Oh, so you're
Oh.
the Futurians.
By the way, by the way, Yoko, you just got a new Patreon supporter.
Oh Jesus. I don't deserve it. Thanks.
Mhm.
All right, Sean, your experiences with Shin Godzilla.
Oh, why me?
'Cause
Well,
you're next.
I have a interesting experience. So, I was really obsessed with Neon Genesis Evangelion when I was in high school, early college years,
Who
and
wasn't?
so, right. So when I heard that Hideaki Anno was going to be directing a Godzilla movie, I was like, well, obviously it came out on April 1st, but I didn't believe it was an April Fool's thing just because April Fool's is not really something that's celebrated in Japan, and it was coming from Japanese news sources. So that's why I was just like, okay. And then lo and behold, it was in fact true, Anno and Higuchi. And so, I was totally down. I was definitely skeptical, especially with the images of the foot, and then, of course, the leaks of the animatronics, which were not, to be honest, great photos.
No.
And then, of course, the movie came out, and I, for the longest time, didn't know how to feel about Shin Godzilla. I mean, the theater experience I had seeing it, though, when it came out here in the States was very positive. I was with friends. It was a fun audience, and it was cool seeing a Godzilla movie in a theater. But for the longest time, I didn't know how to feel about it. Well, 5 years go by. Lo and behold, in the words of Dillo fellow, who's not here right now, I took the Shin pill, and now I am definitely on the Shin Godzilla bandwagon. It is now one of my favorite films in the franchise. I also think it's one of the finest pieces of Japanese cinema in the past, honestly, past decades, because let's face it, Japanese cinema is not as consistently, solid as it was, back in, like, say, the 50s, 60s, and 70s when, like, so many gems were coming out at once. But no, I love it. It's in the top 5, and I actually rewatched it last night in preparation for the stream.
Hey.
Nice.
I had to watch here's the thing. I own the Japanese Blu-ray, like legit, the actual Japanese Blu-ray with all the sexy bonus features and all that, and it has the title cards. But I had to watch the crappy Funimation Blu-ray. Oof.
Mm.
That Funimation Blu-ray gives me PTSD just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'll get onto that when you're done, Sean.
But no, like, nowadays, I think it's one of the smartest Godzilla films. I think it is definitely a film that is not too far away in terms of quality from the original. I think it's cool that we have a Godzilla movie that's also a superb political satire. I mean, besides, before that we had Godzilla versus Hedorah and The Return of Godzilla, which were the closest thing, and the original, because there was some of that in the original too. But this was a full-on political thriller as well. So like, it definitely gives it a unique quality, and plus the fact that it's a standalone solo Godzilla movie where it's just Godzilla, which we don't get often. There's only 3 of them.
Hey, don't forget our good friend from '98.
Okay, there's 4 of them. Well, no, because you have the babyzillas. Remember, you got the little baby Godzillas. Those are other monsters in there, technically.
The real monster was man.
Yeah, real quick, Joshua Hobo, thank you so much for the $5. My experience with Shin Godzilla around like 2018 to 19 by listening to the original soundtrack. From then on, became a huge Godzilla fan since then.
Hey.
That is awesome, Josh. And once again, thank you so much for the 5.
I do want to add something to what Sean said about the whole Funimation versus Japan. I hope I'm not hijacking your spotlight there.
Oh no, I'm done.
He does have a point about them. So when I prepared for I just kind of did a few watching it just as a refresher. And oh my gosh, I forgot how much better the subs were when I watched it in theater versus the Funimation release. Now watching it online. Am I allowed to say that I watched it online? But I mean, I own the Blu-ray. It's right here.
You can get it on YouTube. So,
but yeah, like it's crazy how much that kind of misses, I think, a lot of the feel of it when you just make it the generic kind of subtitled way.
Mm-hmm.
And also the dub. The dub makes me miss Omni Productions. Come back, Rick Thomas. I needed you. He should have voiced the Prime Minister.
I'm just saying, I think that Shin Godzilla, as much as we all like this movie, can we agree Shin Godzilla might just, in fact, have the worst English dub of any of the Godzilla movies?
That's why I avoid it. I've never even heard it, so
it is so.
I refuse to watch it.
Yoko, it's
let me
so
put it
bad.
on right now. No, I'm just kidding.
No, God,
it is so bad. Like the voice acting is atrocious. They're clearly not taking the movie seriously at all. It's just like, it's a Godzilla movie. Let's make this into meme material. And the voices don't match at all with the characters.
That's what I've heard.
Like, I don't mean to diss like the voice actors. I'm sure they kind of tried to do the best with whatever they were directed to do, but it kind of sounded like, I don't know how this is a good way to describe it. Like they were supposed to be dubbing an anime, but they were actually dubbing a live action. So their voices sound very much like they're not like actual.
Well, that's the thing.
That's
the thing. They are anime voice actors.
Yeah,
and I actually took a free lesson with Steve Bloom once, and he went over how there are major differences between voice acting in animation, voice acting in video games, and dubbing live action works.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm sure they were probably like super unfamiliar with that.
Assuming so.
Like I think I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I don't know if I was interrupting that.
It's all good. Continue.
I was gonna say because Funimation also released the live action Rurouni Kenshin movies, and I don't know if there was a dub or not, but the thought of there being a dub of that movie is like, no, thank you.
Yeah, there's a dub of that. I think the only version of those movies on iTunes is the dub.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So.
Thanks,
great.
Apple. Thanks, Apple.
Like, at that point, just get the actors who did it 20 years ago to do that.
Resurrect them. No, resurrect them. Get a ghost box. To record.
No, I think they're alive. It's just like, when I don't know if their voices are the same, but, just go with that. I don't need the Funimation voices. You can just
What if they have laryngitis?
It's still better.
All right, so my experiences with Shin Godzilla, I was definitely one of the many people who were very excited and thrown off guard by the fact that it was going to be directed by both Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, who both worked on Evangelion, and this was also before the live action Attack on Titan movies came out. I mean, y'all know how much those movies mean to me now, and so I kind of saw the Attack on Titan movies as, okay, this is either gonna make or break Shin Godzilla. And then, well, obviously, I ended up enjoying them, which only made me more excited for Shin Godzilla. But I also saw like the leaked photos that I was also having my own like little fan theories and whatnot. But regardless, I was super excited for Shin Godzilla. And okay, so a bit of an interesting story. When it was getting released, I actually transferred to a private school, a Christian academy to be exact, and I was I was one of the starters on the football team. I was also like the biggest guy there, so I kind of already got some school street cred at that point, and then and I was also make some really good friends as well. And I was like, hey, there's this Godzilla movie that's coming out. Do you guys want to go see it? And and so first day it came out, I brought 2 people with me. I loved it. I loved it so much that I went to go see it again with another person. Then I still loved it, so then I went to go see it again with 3 other people. Then I loved it so much that I went to go see it again with 4 other people. and then
and then you loved it so much that you brought 10 more people.
And the whole school later.
Well,
and then everyone on the football team. Everyone on the football team.
In fact, like most of the people I brought were from the football team. So on our way. Okay, so we had an away game going on. So like on the bus trip over there, me and some of my friends, we were just all talking about Shin Godzilla, how it was insane. We were talking about like the acting and like the characters, like the music and Godzilla in general. So yeah, like I mean, like Shin Godzilla has definitely become like one of my all-time favorite Godzilla films, as well as Japanese films in general. And to go back to what y'all were saying, I actually hosted a club at my school, which is where we basically got together every Friday and watched Japanese monster films. And Shin Godzilla is one of those movies. I showed it to 15 people that day.
Sweet.
So yeah, and then I went to go to 2 more screenings to Shin Godzilla, thanks to Famous Monsters, who is no longer with us. Thank y'all so much for being just amazing people, Famous Monsters. And they actually had a convention in Dallas, and Shinji Higuchi and Keiichi Sakurai. Keiichi Sakurai was one of the VFX cinematographers, and I got to meet them for the first time, and also with my little brother too. So I was trying to keep it cool. I was actually me and my brother, we were actually the first people in line to like go get a photo with them. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, God damn it, it's them. And I just lost it. I probably embarrassed myself in front of those people, but so we got our pictures. One is when we're doing the Shin Godzilla pose. The other's the Attack on Titan salute.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good time. We went to their okay, so there were 2 screenings for Shin Godzilla at this convention. One night was the original sub version, and then the other night was the English dub. I was actually one of the very first people to watch the English dub of Shin Godzilla. I don't know if I should brag about that, considering the quality of the dub, and it was also like 2 months before the Blu-ray was even out.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I did get a bit of a sneak peek there, but Yeah. So yeah, of all the movies I've seen in theaters, Shin Godzilla is the second most watched movie that I've seen in a theater. First being the first live action Transformers, which I
Nice.
which I went to go see 7 times.
I mean, top tier cinema. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
you have to.
but basically, just watch my Shin Godzilla video that I just put out. I love this movie
It's
so much.
great. It's a great video.
Yep.
Thank you
Watched
so
that
much,
while I was at
man.
the gym yesterday.
Nice. So yeah so now that we've all shared our experiences with Shin Godzilla, that, and how some of y'all have had some experiences with Ano and Higuchi works, but at the same time, Shin Godzilla was also kind of a culmination of stuff that inspired those two filmmakers, in particular, like Kihachi Okamoto, like especially Kihachi Okamoto, who directed Japan's Longest Day and Battle of Okinawa, who of which those two films were basically the biggest influences for Shin Godzilla. So and considering how critically acclaimed it is in Japan, and I guess the West, sort of, people like critics here just kind of thought, oh, I mean, it did good in Japan, so it's good, I guess. But
There are interesting opinions on Shin Godzilla in the West, that's for sure.
yeah, I mean, just look at my Facebook posts about my video. I mean, it's there's a bit of a war going on, but
Oh, God.
so and thanks to movies like Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, a lot of people are starting to seek out foreign films more often. One of which is obviously Shin Godzilla. So would y'all say that Shin Godzilla is a great entry point for anyone interested in Japanese cinema?
No,
Starting with
Yes.
you, Yoko.
I would say no.
Oh no! All right.
Hard to- That's it might be a hot take, but I say no. Just by seeing the Western response, it's clearly no, because they're not getting the right messages. I think most people have
Oh.
not, and I'm not. And this is, I love the movie hands down, and I get it, and I think a lot of us Godzilla fans also get it. But I feel like a person without an understanding of Japanese culture and how the country works would be completely lost. Like I have shown this movie to some people, and they were like, I don't get it. And I think the movie is so centered on Japan that technically it's not a very international movie. It's a very Japan-centric voice, and that's great. That's a great thing. But if you're seeking foreign films and you want like a palate cleanser to like just off the bat get something like Parasite, obviously it's a very Korean-based film, but the ideas in that movie, you don't have to be Korean to understand what the movie's trying to say, because it's a universal theme. And of course, Shin has a universal theme, but it's kind of buried in this complex narrative through Japanese society. And if you don't understand that society, I think it's hard to grasp what the movie's trying to say. So I think movies like, I always say Kurosawa movies are the best because they are the most internationally reached, because anyone from any
Oh,
culture,
totally.
any age, any background could watch it and get it. But I feel like Shin, judging by the response it gets in the West, I feel like maybe it's not the right movie to introduce somebody to Japanese movies, I guess.
All right. Mafuni.
It's hard to make my take in this because, on the one hand, I'm obviously not Japanese, so maybe I don't have that kind of extra reach into that. So maybe part of me is thinking like, oh, I enjoyed it though. And I'm not Japanese, so maybe it would be. But then also, like, I literally have watched a bunch of Japanese movies before this, so like, maybe that kind of taints that whole point I was getting across. But I think Yoko has a great point about. I wouldn't say maybe it's most people. I think it's just a lot of very loud voices in certain communities kind of bring this, I guess you could say, image of Shin Godzilla across that might not be what In fact, I would say probably not what the filmmakers intended it to be like. I think that just comes from maybe even also like an age kind of thing. I think some people, depending on like maybe, because it's hard, thoughts are all over the place, but it's kind of like, I guess it's more depending on whether you're accepting of like different kinds of movies or they're not. I think that's not really bounded, I think, by age or something. That's mostly just kind of, are you willing to accept other kind of things? Like, because I've seen people who like have seen a bunch of Godzilla movies before this. They're kind of going into this thing. I don't know about this whole thing. Like, even fans of like the original 54 film, they didn't take too much to this. So I guess the question is like, would I show, say, like a friend of mine who doesn't really watch a lot of movies from Japan? Would I show him Shin Godzilla as a good entry point? I don't know if I can make that call because it's kind of one of those things where, like, on the one hand, it's a good movie. I think it's a good movie, and I think that even if you don't have that extra like cultural understanding, you could still look at it as an enjoyable experience because I think it has a lot of those elements that I think make a lot of Godzilla movies popular. Like it has that I would actually, because Sean kind of made this point about the more politically, I guess, oriented Godzilla movies of the past. It's kind of like in that GMK kind of way where the movie itself has a lot of like extra stuff that you can just dig into. Like if you make the effort to dig into that movie, you will find more than just what's on screen. Yeah. But even if you don't, like you kind of just step back, which I don't recommend. I think the more you dig into these movies, the better I think they get. But I think you can still be entertained in that sort of way that a Godzilla movie gets you. Like that has that whole fantasy element to it that I think is present in Shin Godzilla. I would probably say that maybe if you were going to show someone Shin Godzilla for the very first, like as their very first serious look at like, I want to get into more Japanese movies beyond just what I've watched 6 8 years ago. And I want to start right here. I would say probably give them some context. Like, hey, this is a more, obviously I think the best place to do is like, explain them about kind of what inspired this whole thing, which was, the Fukushima disaster. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with it now, but that was also, I think, 10 years ago. I'm not sure if people are obviously will remember. I'm not sure how many people like really understand kind of what went on beyond just what people saw in the news, like in America. And that's like the first thing to do.
I think just to piggyback,
go ahead.
Just to piggyback just very quickly. I think the problem that I have when I recommend Shin Godzilla to people is the fact that, like you were saying, you have to kind of give context. Yeah. And you kind of have to prepare them like, here's the information, and then you can get it. But I feel like it's hard to just like pop it in for some people. So I think that's why I've been kind of apprehensive to just off the bat show this movie to somebody who hasn't seen any other Japanese movies or even like other Godzilla movies. Like I think even the 54 one is a way easier path into Japanese movies. But like the fact that, like you were saying, like you kind of have to say like it's about 3/11, it's about the Fukushima nuclear disaster and everything. Like that's kind of the problem, is that I have to kind of preface the movie. Yeah.
But like if I were like if I were gonna bring someone say into Godzilla, not just with Japanese cinema, I think it would have to be a bit more of a far-reaching kind of like, oh, you should watch Shin Godzilla, but you should also watch, say, Yojimbo. You should also watch Battle of Okinawa. You should also watch Japan Sinks, original or remake. Personally, I would probably go with the original just because I think there's obviously a lot. I think there's a lot of influence from that, like that original one. But if it's like, oh, bringing someone into Godzilla, I think I would definitely say this is like with a franchise. I think I'd always pick, like with James Bond or Godzilla. A thing I always come was, if I had to show someone 5 movies and try my hardest to get them into this series, what would I do? I think
it would be Spectre, Spectre.
No.
Let's see. Octopussy, You Only Live Twice, From Russia with Love.
Which is where the decisive battle theme comes from.
I thought he was going to go with, because I think Octopus... Am I allowed to say that movie title in your stream?
It's a movie title, I guess. It's not a,
A lot of people kind of view that negative, but I actually come to appreciate it a lot more. So that's why I thought he was going with that. But yeah, I think Shin Godzilla is like, it's definitely a Godzilla movie that I would pick like from like, I mean, I guess it's like kind of the only modern Japanese Godzilla movie aside from the anime trilogy. So there's no like other live action Japanese ones. But yeah, I would definitely say like if I was like hosting a Godzilla film festival with like 6 movies, and I could, so like I'm gonna try my damn hardest to get at least one of you to like these movies. I would definitely pick Shin Godzilla as like a good contender in that.
I would agree. Yeah.
But probably not like the only one. I'd be like, oh, you like 84? You like Godzilla 84? You would probably like this movie a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sean.
I think I had a point somewhere in there.
Oh no, we totally got what you were saying, Mafuni.
All right. Good.
All right, Sean, let's hear it.
Well, this is a movie I do want to recommend to like the general audience, just because it is a really, really great film. But I actually do have to agree, now that I think about it, that context does matter, because this is a very, not to sound ignorant sounding, this is a very Japanese movie with how it handles Japanese.
It has a very strong sense of a cultural identity within it.
That's the thing. It's a very culturally driven movie. And not only that, but understanding just how Japanese bureaucracy works and how Japan handles, a disaster that they're not prepared for. I mean, like I said, the 3/11 earthquake and the Fukushima disaster, I mean, I'm pretty sure most people do remember when that happened, because when it did happen, it shocked many of us. Like, it was horrifying. So I think, though, understanding that when looking at Shin Godzilla definitely will help. And also the fact that the movie is a political satire, and that it not only takes inspiration from the original Godzilla, but also other big important films in Japanese cinema, such as Japan's Longest Day or Battle of Okinawa, which unfortunately, while popular among Japanese cinephiles, those movies are still not exactly popular here in the West, unfortunately. I mean, they're limited to like really crappy Animega DVDs here in the West, which
that are out of print.
That are out of print, exactly. And so you have to have a decent amount of money to get like Japanese Blu-rays of those movies.
Or just know someone.
Or just know someone. Who's this someone? I don't know, who are you talking to?
Oh no, I think his name was Bon Cherry. Oh no.
Bond?
Bond, and his last name is
Bond
Cherry?
Burger?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Burgers. Bob's Good Burgers. Yeah, exactly. Well, to kind of add to what you're saying, Yoko, I think also cultural thing is another thing, because unfortunately, I don't know if we're really going to get into this during the stream, but the movie is, unfortunately, a lot of its controversy here in the West comes from the fact that the way that some of the themes, and especially the politics of Shin Godzilla, have been interpreted here in the West, especially with how Japan deals with Godzilla in this movie.
Right.
So, like, I would say this is a movie I would recommend to fans of Godzilla and also fans of Evangelion, because
Absolutely.
I have some friends that are huge fans of Evangelion. I was like, well, hey, the guy who did Evangelion also made a Godzilla movie. Want to see it? And they're like, oh, okay, sure. And they ended up really, really enjoying it. Mm-hmm. So, as much as I do want to recommend this movie to the general public, I do agree with you guys that I think context is important with a kind of movie like this. Because, some people might go into this movie and they're like, what the hell is this?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, just look at Godzilla's, second form, technically. It's Godzilla's second form in this movie. You go in thinking this is a Godzilla movie, and then that appears on screen, and you're like, what kind of movie are we watching here?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so for my answer. I'm sorry, what was that, Mafuni?
I don't know if I just kind of want to go in with what he said about the first form. It's kind of like the first form. I think form 2. I think it's called. That's like kind of the Rorschach test of Godzilla movies, where it's like, depending on who you show that to, they'll think that's either really horrifying or really funny.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had 2 different reactions.
I mean, we'll find out. Who thinks
I
this
feel
is funny or hilarious?
I feel like it's one of those things where if once you see it, if you like see it in images, you might like giggle at it. I think it's when you see it in motion in the context of the movie, then it kind of goes to the more disturbing route, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Like it's funny, but also like it's funny when you kind of like first see him just like in the front with the crowd, but then after a few seconds, like the wide open eyes are really just like horrifying.
And just the way it's kind of just like flopping around,
Yeah, it's like a grotesque, like unfinished piece of nature.
and
You
it's
know?
like bleeding out.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, to throw in my 2 cents.
Bandai saw it and said, "Dang, we're gonna sell a lot of toys."
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's Bandai. I mean,
Yeah.
I have like a 25 Gunpla. I mean, they definitely make money. I'm pretty sure I spent like $600 on Gunpla at this point. Jesus Christ!
Oh my god.
But
Jesus.
but yeah, to throw in my 2 cents, it's definitely a movie you should provide some context before showing to anyone. Because from my experience, I showed it to people who have never seen a Godzilla movie without any context whatsoever.
Oof.
But I was a bit lucky because they still ended up really digging it, and was surprised by how engaging it was for that type of film. And and I do briefly mention this in my video. There are some people who do kind of end up misinterpreting like what the movie is supposed to be about, which I will say, I mean, like anyone who's like associated with those articles that I posted, please do not go out your way to go after them. I mean,
No,
I
please
mean all
don't.
these all these people like, well, I mean, on one hand, media is entirely subjective. People can interpret
Mhm.
whatever they want, really.
Mhm.
There's really like no set in stone like way to really view a film exactly. So yeah, I just want to bring that up. But also feel like in recent years, because of COVID, people did start to look at this movie in a different way.
Oh yeah.
Especially with the fact that it's basically a country trying to deal with something very horrifying and learning to live with it.
Mhm.
Which I mean, it definitely hits home in this day and age.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I just
It's gained a whole new
remembered
relevance now.
The
Yeah.
movie literally has a line where we have to learn how to live with Godzilla, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh, that's what you just meant right now. I never remembered. I remember that right now.
Or
Yeah.
technically, with how they come up with a plan to defeat Godzilla, it's like we won't be able to permanently defeat him, but it's a start.
Mhm.
But right, so we were talking about Kamata-kun earlier, and I see some people in the comments talking about how adorable and cute Kamata-kun is, and how it was shocking to see Kamata-kun in the film. I just want to segue into another topic, because I feel like this would be a really nice segue. What did y'all think of this particular take on Godzilla? Starting with Yoko.
Yeah, it was a shock, definitely. I read the script and
Wait, but you said you couldn't understand the script.
well, listen.
Let's get into it. Let him talk.
I'm just giving you shit. I'm just giving you shit.
No, always, please do. It actually took me and my mom like 10 to 12 days to read through the whole thing, and then as each scene ends, I'll ask her like, so what happened, and then she'll tell me, and then like on the top of the script I'll like write in English like what is happening, so that like if they refer to like, all right, today we're shooting scene 130, I can like skip to it and I know like what happens in scene 130. So we were reading it together, and at some point it said, the creature evolves, and I was like, oh god, what is going on? What the fuck is happening right now? And then the fact that he was red was also in the script. That was also a shock. I was like, oh, red. And then, you hear red, and then Godzilla, and you immediately, I guess, at least for me, I just thought, like, is he burning Godzilla? Like, what's happening here? Like, is he gonna look like a Baragon, just a big Baragon with the fucking dorsal plates?
I understood that reference.
So I was just so confused, and I super liked the idea, but I was just so confused as to how they were gonna pull it off. But on set they had the maquettes that they made of each form, and I was like, oh, that's what it's gonna look like. Okay, that's something. That's very different. I like it.
Were these same like designs that Takayuki Takeya like put together and put in his art book?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I think it's based on those, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And those maquettes were the ones that were like on display. I think like during the movie's release, like they displayed Form 4's maquette, but they also had Form 2 and 3 on set, so we knew what he looked like. And then I got to watch the previs for the whole movie, and that's when I saw the disgusting, like, wriggling Kamata-kun, and I was like, what is going on? Like, what the fuck is happening? This is crazy.
Can I just ask a question of Yoko real quickly?
Yeah, of course.
As a Godzilla fan, like, I imagine you were probably a big Godzilla fan going into this, right?
Yeah.
Being a person working on these movies and looking at these designs for the very first time, did you at any point think to yourself, this is gonna make the fans go like really crazy?
I did. Once I saw the evolution, I was like, oh, I don't know how people are going to feel about this. Like, I liked it, and I was like, oh, this is going to cause a shitstorm.
Like you're holding like the golden, it's kind of like you're holding the golden ticket in your hand. You're just like, I can't tell anyone about this.
Yeah, I was so nervous, and probably like my mom might be one of the few other people who weren't in the production who knew about this because she had to read the script with me. But like, it was so agonizing keeping that in because, like, obviously, the set photos leaked, right? But I was like, that's not even the tip of the iceberg of this movie. Like, you don't even know what's happening. And everyone, I forgot who mentioned, was theorizing whether it was like the reincarnation of 54. Was it Mafuni?
Oh no, it was. I read that on Facebook. I think someone else said, "Oh, it's the reincarnation of GMT." These were like leaks in air quotes. Like everyone wants to be the leaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say, D. Duvall, thank you so much for the $10. I've yet to hear a Japanese perspective on the politics of Shin, but from my U.S. view, it's very critical of the Japanese government response to Fukushima. Why is it considered nationalistic and right wing?
Do you wanna save that for later, or no?
I'd rather not get too political, right. On the show. But I will just say, for me, it's definitely a case of people like looking too much into it and kind of comparing it to and comparing it to like the more American way of how situations are dealt with.
Agreed.
So
I think,
yeah,
can I chime in a bit on that?
Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll get back to Yoko.
Oh, actually, this is something you mentioned in your review. How one of the big things I think behind that is that the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, I think, did like the film a lot.
Yes,
and I think that obviously that's going to carry, like, when a president or leader of a country likes a thing or doesn't like a thing, that's going to be like, it's going to take on a life of its own almost. Beyond what
Davis, if I could turn this into a joke, can I say what I said to you the other night in terms of certain people liking things?
Go ahead, then we'll get back to Yoko.
I'm just saying, people. Adolf Hitler loved King Kong. Donald Trump loves Citizen
Oh, did he?
Kane. Yeah, Donald Trump loves Citizen Kane. How many murderers love critically acclaimed music and movies? Kim Jong-il was a Godzilla fan. You see what I'm saying, people?
Yeah, it's hard to judge what, Abe clearly liked it, but he might have been like asleep through it. Who knows?
Well, it's again, I don't want to get political. I find his enjoyment of Shin Godzilla kind of really ironic.
Very ironic. Yeah.
If you especially look at the character of the Prime Minister played by the great Renosuke.
Was Abe president when that? What? Not president, Prime Minister when?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why.
Oh.
But you were saying, Yoko, about like the multiple forms of Godzilla, like causing a shitstorm, which it did.
Yeah, I definitely knew like, oh, this is going to be a controversial talking point, and it was. And then I was silent when Bandai released their like toy line, and they were like Mystery Toy 2 and 3. I was like, oh, I know those are the other two forms. I know for a fact.
The marketing for this movie, I just want to say, was
Silent.
I love that though.
Yeah.
They didn't spoil anything. This wasn't like where it got to a certain point with Godzilla vs. Kong, you're like, fuck it, Mechagodzilla's in the movie.
Mm.
Wait,
They-
he's in the movie?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yes, he is. I don't care about spoiling the movie.
and so is the giant octopus. He's also in the movie.
I thought it was Mechanicon. I thought that was real.
Oh yeah, he's also in there.
No, it's Mechagodzilla. No, I should be worried. It's Mechagodzilla City from City on the Edge of Battle.
Oh, nice. The
Or
ultimate
to be more
crossover.
accurate, it's a Mecha King Ghidorah since they have the head in the movie. So technically, it's Mecha King Ghidorah.
But no,
But
they
if I-
kept silent. They kept. Oh, go ahead, Mafuni.
Oh, sorry. I just want to ask Yoko one more thing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe this might be a segue. Did you ever like look at English speaking like forums or like kind of American perspectives, like what these leaks were going through, and just like thinking to yourself, I know something they don't, or just kind of laughing about it?
That's mostly the entirety between like January and then the release. Like, there's all of it. I was reading stuff and I was like, it's completely wrong. and like you want to say something, but I obviously NDA signed. I'm not going to breach contract. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. But I will say I didn't know. There's one thing I didn't know was the purple beam. Didn't know that. Because in the previs it was blue.
Oh,
It was still blue. So but when everyone was talking about Shin and how he was like a zombie and I was like, well, A, he evolved, so get ready. And then B, he shoots back beams, so get ready. And then C, there's a tail beam, so get ready. Like, there were so many other things.
And then D, there's a face in that tail.
There's a face in the tail, and then human figures are coming out of the tail. Like,
and it's Goro Maki from Godzilla 84.
Yeah, not just any face. Not just any face.
It's-
You see this?
Exactly. So
Yeah, also the face of director Kihachi Okamoto.
Yes, Kihachi Okamoto is inside Godzilla's tail.
The ultimate cameo.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care. It's a great cameo, and I love it.
that is amazing.
Okay, so like, I mean, it's very likely that the whole Goro Maki is Godzilla theory is true. Like, imagine what it must be like being immortalized in the form of a creature like that.
Of a giant monster.
It's kind of like basically GMK again, because
Right.
GMK, the souls of those who died during World War II. So it's like, it's interesting to think that, like, what if this Godzilla has a soul? And not only that, what if this creature is using some of the DNA structure of Goro Maki? Because let's face it, when Godzilla's in his fourth form, the main form technically, there is something kind of, even though you could tell it's still an animal, like, there is something eerily humanoid about it, especially with the shape of the head and the arms especially.
I think it's also the fact that like an animal would walk in a direction, but it'd be very erratic. But it seems like he just walks in a straight line without reacting, almost like it's as if it's marching.
It's almost like it's just indifferent. And
Mhm.
like the only time where he really will react is when he feels threatened.
Right, if he gets hurt.
If he gets hurt. Or if he wants to troll someone, he'll cause a big explosion and then send a fucking bridge flying.
Right. Right.
I love
How
that
did
bit
that-
so much.
I hate to go off topic, but like, how did that happen in the movie? Every time I saw that scene, I'm like, did he kick that up?
No, I've come to the conclusion. I'm pretty sure he used his tail because remember earlier on in the movie, his tail sent a train flying in the air.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it was his tail.
It'd be great if he
There was
kicked it. That'd be great.
Yeah.
There was a second, slightly larger Shin Godzilla in the same area. It's called Bigger Shin Godzilla, and he constantly appears.
Also, here's something from bonus commentary for all of us. With Shin and Singular Point having Godzilla evolve and take on new shapes and abilities, do you think there's a limit, and how far would be too far?
A limit in terms of like creative, or in terms of like Godzilla's abilities.
I'd say more creative because
Creative.
I am of the opinion that Godzilla is more of an idea than a character, so you can pretty much do whatever you want with Godzilla as long as it is faithful to the roots of that particular character.
And you know who says the same thing? You know who says the exact same thing? Akira Takarada, people.
Yep.
One of the most beloved actors in the entire Godzilla franchise, so let that sink in. But I guess we kind of went on many tangents. I guess, though, Yoko, did you like the interpretation of Godzilla being an ever-evolving creature?
I did, and I guess it's a segue also into this question as well, and merge my thoughts a little bit. I'm always okay with things being changed and being a little contemporary, and I think I might prefer that. But Dave, like you were saying, I think that the spirit of the original has to be intact, and the intent and the message or the theme that you're trying to convey has to match whatever the original is. So without a doubt, even though Shin Godzilla may on the outside seem like wacky, it evolves, it's got back beams, a tail beam, a mouth in the tail. It's a wacky idea, but there is no way you can look at it and not go like, that's not Godzilla. Like, it is Godzilla. Like, without a doubt, that is the King of Monsters and the God of Destruction. Like, it's very clear that is Godzilla of how the Japanese perceive the character. So I am okay with anything that they do. And like in Singular Point 2, like he was like a weird version of Varen in the beginning, and then had a weird like mouth. And then at the end, he becomes more of the traditional Godzilla that we know and love, and he's got the rings, So it's different. Sure, it's a little wacky, but I think again, at the end of the day, you have to look at that and go, "Oh, that's Godzilla." And I think that's the thing that I hold dear, is as long as the character's intent and the message is intact.
Right.
All bets are off.
And dang, I was going to say that, like, with stuff like Shin and Singular Point, it's honestly a nice way to separate those particular iterations of Godzilla from the rest, because I mean, let's face it, do we really want Showa Godzilla for God knows how many movies straight?
Oh, absolutely.
If it's the 74 and 75 one, yes. I want him in like Shin Godzilla 2. That's the final Shin Godzilla form.
Does Godzilla need to be limited to this like textbook mindset of like, oh no, he's a dinosaur, which to be honest, Godzilla's only really technically been a dinosaur, I think, once in the Heisei series. Other than that,
right.
he's a reptile.
Dinosaurs attacking our boys.
Take that, dinosaur. Like literally, the only time Godzilla's been a confirmed dinosaur was in the Heisei series. Other than that, he's an aquatic, amphibious reptilian creature. Like he's a one-of-a-kind creature. And what's to say, you can differentiate from the
like an onion.
Like an onion.
What's up, steamed iguana?
I mean, Shrek said it best. Onions have layers. Godzillas have layers.
You get it. They both have layers.
Anguirus, what are you doing in my swamp? That was kind of Russian. I think I did that bad.
Are you trying to speak phonetically like the American actors playing Russians in Godzilla '84?
Oh god.
To kind of I agree with the point Yoko made about how you can kind of do a lot of these weird things with Godzilla. And I think, at least from my perspective, a lot of people would kind of just be okay as long as it kind of keeps that same sort of style of what we expect from Godzilla. Like, I think in a sense that's almost not your point, but I mean what I just kind of described is shallow, but also it isn't, because it's like I think people will be fine with the visual aspect of this, and then you can kind of just do whatever you want with everything else, because
Right.
I also think though, like, going on from that evolution of like with Shin and with Singular Point, despite the fact that I haven't watched the show yet, kind of just going on like an outside perspective, I do think that they might want to be careful about if they do that too much, it might become almost a played up.
It might be stale.
Take things away from Shin Godzilla. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, Godzilla's one of those things where Oh, what, Sean?
Which you don't want, you know. Which
don't make it like
want. We want that.
Oh yeah. Oh, they said what you don't want. Sorry. I heard that wrong. Godzilla's one of those characters where you can kind of make him almost whatever you want it to be, as long as you kind of can almost make it whatever you want it to be, so long as you kind of put the extra thought into it. Like, there's a reason why, despite the fact, that when he made Godzilla '84, Tanaka was like, Tomiyuki Tanaka, the guy who was, all this kind of came from, he was like, we shouldn't do the whole superhero stuff. We should try and stick with the original. But on the other hand, it's like, well, he probably wouldn't have lasted so long if it was just that one thing. Like,
Agreed.
You can't make the same thing over and over again. I think
stale. Look on stale.
Like, could you imagine if like you made kind of a movie like 54 like all the time? Like, that it would take away that uniqueness. And I think with Godzilla, even if you like or dislike something like Shin or Legendary or SP or the anime trilogy, I think it's good to the franchise to keep changing new things and doing new things, because regardless if you don't like any of these or if you like all of them, you still have those old kind of things left there. And I really think you can look at every other past Godzilla as almost a starting point from whatever you want to do. If Japan ever wants to make a Godzilla movie like Shin, where it's like it's live action ever again,
right?
And they can kind of use every version really as just like a starting point where I want to go from here. I want to make it like the 70s. I want to make it like the Shin Godzilla. I want to make it like the 80s. You can kind of do whatever you want with that. And also to kind of go to the point where he talked about how far is too far creatively or visually. I remember, this is kind of a dumb idea I had a long time ago, when everyone was saying, is Shin Godzilla getting a sequel? The Shin Godzilla sequel is canceled, even though he was always just a standalone thing from the beginning. I always thought that.
I mean, like during the interview I did with Yoko on here months back, there were so many people asking, are we getting a Shin Godzilla 2?
One day, just say yes and just see what happens.
Why? Yes. Davis Madol and Yoko Higuchi are making it. I'm just kidding.
God.
Shin Godzilla 2049.
It's going to star Anna Taylor-Joy.
Now I'm making it. Okay, let's get it funded. Let's go, boys.
I remember I always thought everyone always pointed to that tail and the figures coming from the end of it as like, that's where the sequel was going. I remember my idea was always like, what if those things at the end of the thing, the end of the tail, they do their own kind of evolution thing. That's how you make all the other Godzilla monsters. Looking back, that sounds like a really weird idea, but yeah, I think you can kind of just do whatever you want. You can pretty much, you're only limited by whatever you want to limit yourself with when it comes to that, I think.
Yeah, and there were weirder ideas in the original Shin script also, because in the original script that I read, in the first draft,
Yoko, look,
$150 million budget, funding it immediately. Right now, I'll direct it. But there were a lot of in the original script. they had a thing where whenever Godzilla bleeds or is hurt, and there's a chunk of him that comes off, that will turn into a mini monster that attacked
Cool.
the self-defense force. So there was a lot of like other wacky things that they cut from the movie. Maybe that it was they didn't have enough budget, or if they thought it was too wacky, I'm not sure. But the original version was like he was going to regenerate into smaller monsters.
Oh.
So not that far off, to be honest.
Now that you mentioned it, I do remember Toho having this rule when they handed Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin what they could and could not do with Godzilla, which then I'm pretty sure they threw out half of that.
I'm sure.
Was they said that Godzilla could not eat people. So I don't know if maybe that's kind of that whole idea where it's like we don't want even this thing that kind of looks like Godzilla eating or attacking people like that.
Maybe.
I mean, then again, they did throw that out too in the 98 movie when you think about it. So maybe all bets are off.
Yeah.
I mean, listen,
Godzilla can't eat people. His babies, though, that's how he gets around
Can eat
that.
people, yeah.
I mean, that's actually very common with a lot of animals. They actually do eat their younglings sometimes. Well, I also will listen. He technically absorbed Goromaki. He had to have absorbed him some way. Like, I guess that's the one exception. But then again, that could have just been like a mistake, kind of like the equivalent of like, you know how a whale sometimes consumes stuff by accident that's not intentionally going after. It could be something kind of akin to that.
Or maybe it was his intention.
Well, are you still on your turn, Mafuni, when it comes to Godzilla? Because then I was gonna go.
I didn't even know we were doing turns. Honestly, it's kind of like I kind of just was piggybacking off of Yoko's point.
It kind of just drifted.
Go ahead, yeah. I think.
Well, Davis, you want to keep that structure, though?
You go ahead, Sean.
I'm multitasking because I'm trying to get Andres a copy of How From Beyond the Fog. Shh.
Imagine if he just pops up in the live chat right now.
He just said.
You weren't supposed to tell people that.
No. He pops up in the live chat, and I said, Andres, what if I don't want to give you a copy of How From Beyond the Fog? Well, then go fuck yourself.
I will give it to you with the money you donate to Davis's stream.
No. Become a full-fledged Patreon supporter of Titan Goji, and then I'll consider things. And there's this guy, I think his name is Yoko Higuchi. You consider him as well? You know, even before I took the Shin pill as a joke,
took 5 years.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
I'm like Mr. Krabs when he takes his pill in that one episode of SpongeBob. I always loved the evolution concept. I love it. I think it's such a cool, unique concept that we don't usually see. True, but at the same time, like, again, Godzilla doesn't need to be limited. Like, you could do Godzilla in very unique ways, and to me, it's also the execution that matters, and I think in the case of... Nice.
Oh my god.
Look at Yoko, he's turning into Patrick Stewart in Star Trek.
Thank you. Oh, bonus commentary.
I love that he's an ever-evolving creature, and of course, I love the idea of the Goromaki theory. Because, let's face it, Goromaki is a very important part of the story and how he ties into Godzilla. Which, here's the thing. I know there are some people that hate these speculations, but the movie, if you really look at the movie, and I don't know, Yoko, if you could confirm this or not, if you really look at the movie, there's literally, right in front of your face, many moments in the movie that are blatantly saying, yeah, Goromaki clearly has some major involvement with why Godzilla is the way he is. His suicide literally has something to do with it, and a key moment being when Higuchi says, "What happened to him?"
And then it cuts right to
the tail. Like, it's right there, people. It's right there in front of your faces. Like, again though, interpretation is subjective, but like, I don't mind that he's light on personality because of the ideas he represents. You know, a nuclear disaster, you know, the horrors of nuclear warfare, and also just a natural disaster because literally the whole Kamada-kun attack sequence is basically the equivalent of the 311 earthquake happening. There's imagery. Okay, so I have watched a lot of the 311 and Fukushima footage. There are shots in Shin Godzilla that are literally mimicking right down to a T. A key one is after the atomic breath scene. And Yoko, you know that one shot overhead where
It's with the fire and everything.
Yeah, like
yeah.
There is news footage after the Fukushima incident and 311 earthquake looks identical. Like it looks identical, which is so eerie.
I mean, they were. I remember on set, and we were in the tokusatsu department. They'd be watching clips of that to recreate like the rivers overflowing and that first act sequence. They were always constantly watching clips of that to make sure it was referential.
Right. Or right down to even some of the characters' reactions. The big one being the Prime Minister's reaction when he says, Godzilla will not come ashore. The guy walks up on stage. What? He has? Which is... Oh, I love that moment so much. Also, Anno has a cameo in that bus in that sequence.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And it was also his voice on the loudspeaker when Godzilla appears in his fourth form.
Which it doesn't sound like him, which is weird.
No, I'm gonna disagree with you, Yoko. Whenever I hear Anno speaking, he's got a very distinct voice.
Yeah,
like,
he does.
Now when I watch it, it's like, oh, that's Anno. Like that's
Is it?
Anno.
Okay. It sounds very different to me. I don't know why.
Well, later on, there's also some ambulances going by that have a woman's voice, so that might be where some of the confusion is, because Anno's got a bit of a slightly feminine-sounding voice.
It's a very, like, soft
sounding.
Right? Hideki Anno has entered the YouTube chat.
Yeah. Also, what Godzilla does in the movie, because he's clearly suffering. Like, he's trying to survive. He's clearly in pain. And also, I love the idea that it's very subtle moments where he's reacting to stuff. Like, in the Kamada-kun, he's, like, clearly, like, in a ton of agony and is just, like, trying to, like, get around. And a key moment is the great scene where the family gets killed, which is such a heart-wrenching scene to watch. When he's like slithering up on the building, which is such a beautiful CGI effect, when he's like slithering on it, he clearly looks like kind of like a snake that's in pain, and it would like twitch, you know, when reptiles twitch when they're in a lot of pain. It reminds me of that. Or when Godzilla gets hit by the American bombs. It's little stuff like that. And also, he's not an idiot, because when he's threatened, he fights back. Like, the minute he is woken up during the Gucci strategy, what does he do? He throws everything at them, because he's like, oh crap, I'm getting attacked. So, and now that I've grown to love the movie, my appreciation for this interpretation of Godzilla has grown even more. So, in my opinion, it's one of the best interpretations of the character. And I think it's also good in Singular Point. I feel like, though, there's something a little more special about it in Shin. Maybe because it's the first one that did it. I don't know.
Probably.
Right. So I have nothing else to add. Really, all you guys said it best. I mean, it's definitely a very unique take on Godzilla, and it's one that also stuck its landing incredibly well. To basically the point where it's the face of the franchise now. But we've talked a decent amount about Godzilla in this film, but also want to talk more about the acting performances in this film. I mean, Hiroki Hasagawa, Satomi Ishihara, Ren Osugi, Satoru Matsuo, like a very very talented cast for this film. Do you guys want to talk about how you felt about that?
Just waiting. 'Cause
I guess not.
first before, so
Everyone's like,
I'll go
nope.
last. I'll go last.
No. Let's speak in sign language like that one woman during the press conferences.
Oh yeah, she's like.
This is gonna be very hard for me.
All right. Yoko, do you want to talk about your thoughts on the human cast in Shin
He just said
Godzilla?
he did last, but okay.
It's fine.
It's my
I
show,
feel like
not
I'm
his.
talking too much. Yeah, it's your show too. Yeah, I at first I didn't know much about the cast, and then when my mom got the script and she saw the cast list there, she was just in awe because it was all these like famous people that I didn't know, and usually in Godzilla films, outside of like some of the Showa era stuff, like usually the leads aren't famous people. Like they become famous because they were in a Godzilla movie, perhaps.
Or there's one or two famous actors amongst...
like supporting actors amongst the all the new faces, let's say.
Yeah, which was very much the case for the first movie, where you had a bunch of new faces in the original, with the exception of Takashi Shimura, who was really like the most
like a very
prestigious
renowned.
he was the most prestigious actor in that film.
Exactly. So she in particular was in awe of like, oh wow, there's like A-list people, not just in the background, but like just all throughout. So that was quite shocking. And I was watching it again, for my live stream I did, and then also on the 29th. But I'm just always impressed by how fast these guys can talk. Because my God,
yes,
that's
Anno. Is it true that Anno made some of them do as much as 30 takes just to get the speed right?
I
Not my
can't
tempo.
confirm or deny. Yeah, like I can't confirm or deny that, but I believe it. Because I remember there were moments on set where he would say like faster. I remember. So and I heard that when Anno gave the final draft to Toho, they were like, "How are you going to fit this in 2 hours?" And he said, "Don't worry, I'm gonna make everyone talk really, really fast." So I'm like, cool. So you did that. So God bless these actors for like just saying all this jargon so quickly. It's insane how quickly they can do it, and it's like a Aaron Sorkin script. It just the pace of the lines are crazy. So like hats off to everyone. And I appreciate how, like, for lack of a better term, underplayed everyone is. Like, it's a very subtle performance throughout. It's not like a very bombastic movie with like outcries of yelling or like intense performances, but that quiet, nuanced performance I think is even more difficult. So hats off to everyone for pulling that off, and a lot of them were like super nice on set, so that was also just a general plus as well.
All right, Mafuni, what are your thoughts on the cast?
I think, like with any big franchises, when you get a lot of like people who are, like how he said, like usually the movies like these, they make the stars instead of like having the stars be in them.
Mm-hmm.
That can sometimes go either way, but I think with this, I think most of them, a lot of them did a really great job here. I think with a lot of Godzilla movies, it's almost like a mini ensemble. A lot of Godzilla movies where it's like you have a main character like who's the top billed one, but you also have like maybe three characters that the movie's gonna mainly focus on. Like I think a good example is like Godzilla 84. There's like obviously the top billed person, but you have like three different stories going on. It's these like the main characters, or in a movie like any like GMK or Against Mechagodzilla, you have kind of 2 or 3 splitting stories with like the main characters. Shin's different in that I think obviously like I can't pronounce his first name, but
Hiroki Hasegawa.
Hiroki Hasegawa.
Hiroki, yeah.
I'm blanking on his name. I almost said Hiroshi Hasegawa. That sounds like a different actor.
I think you're thinking of
Fujioka.
Hiroshi Koizumi.
Yeah, all those kind of. Yeah, because he was in Tokyo SOS, which was kind of what I was thinking of before. But yeah, you have like he's obviously the main guy, but there's like so many main people here. It's kind of one of those big like I said, it's an ensemble kind of movie where like everyone there's like maybe 4, 5, 6 main characters in this movie that you could say like he's a main person, she's a main person, and I think they handled that really well. I do like. Well, being a Godzilla nerd that I am, I did like seeing a lot of older faces pop up, like Akira Moto. He was in Space Godzilla. He's in a lot of other things in Japan, but he's, I think, obviously I know him mainly from that. I know he's in a lot of other movies. I think it was Shall We Dance was, I think, the movie he was in. It's another really famous one. I think he was.
Jun Kunimura.
Oh, yeah, he's in like a lot of stuff. He's in Final Wars. He's in Hard Boiled. Yeah.
Tsukamoto too. Shinya Tsukamoto.
Made sure not to forget that. I made absolutely sure not to forget that. Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff.
Satomi Ishihara?
Mm-hmm. And I forgot his name. He's in Gamera 3, and he makes a small appearance in this. He was the...
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Crap.
He's also acted in a few Anno movies before, so that's probably why he's in it.
And thanks to Sean, I am more aware of Kazuo Hara, who plays one of the biologists at the beginning of the film.
Can we go on a small tangent? And Davis, I showed you this movie. Can you tell the audience who Kazuo Hara is?
Okay, so if you haven't watched my video, Kazuo Hara is a very famous Japanese documentary director, and he's known for putting out basically stuff you would not see like today. Like it's surreal in that snuff film kind of way. Because Sean showed me The Emperor's Naked Army Marches On.
Yes, that's the title.
Oh, yep. Where Kazuo Hara follows an anti-imperial extremist who brags about murdering people, assaulting people in their own homes, and he even hit Emperor Hirohito with a slingshot once.
Oh wow, that's a
no, the best one. You gotta tell the best one though of the things he brags about.
I don't want to get into that.
Yeah. Don't go into it.
But yeah, if you guys can like seek and hunt down The Emperor's Naked Army Marches On, please do. It's freaking wild. But
I kept thinking you're gonna say Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
That's
also wild.
His cameo by the way in that scene is great. I don't know if the footage is real, but most importantly, if I say something, I could lose my credibility as a biologist. And the Prime Minister's just like,
continue, Mafuni.
Yeah, I do. To go on with what Sean was saying, I think I'm so bad. Tsukamoto. What's his first name?
Shinya
Tsukamoto. Yeah. I think, definitely has a good performance. I think the Godzilla movie stuff, I think, always had good actors and actresses. In the case of Kumi Mizuno, play the prime ministers. And I think whenever they were in the movie, they were always like a really special part of it. You know, Kira Nakawa, Keiju Kobayashi, who was in Battle of Okinawa, and Kumi Mizuno. And the current one, Shinya Tsukamoto, I think he was really good in this because, you know, it's one of those things where a lot of like the past Godzilla prime ministers have always been like, oh, I'm a strong prime minister. I'm like, we're going to get this stuff done. Or like, I'm this leader. But he's just like, it's more realistic where it's just like, he's like, he looks like he's tired like of just all this stuff already. It's not even like new.
The actor you're thinking of is Ren Isugi. Shinya Tsukamoto played the guy with the towel on him.
Is a scientist.
Oh my god, I am so bad.
Ren Isugi though is arguably the most famous actor in the movie because he's been in how many Takashi Kitano movies?
Yeah, he worked with them.
I felt so bad because like I've been hearing Shinya Tsukamoto from you and from Big-O because he was talking about filmography, and I hear Ren Isugi from Tango recent videos. So I'm like, I'm getting all this stuff confused. But yeah, he's I think a very good prime minister, Ren Isugi, because again, it's not that really glamorous or really like that ideal kind of prime minister that we see later, like we see in other movies. It's more like this realistic where he's just tired and done. Like it's not even it's not even noon, and he's just already like just done.
And here's the thing: he's a decent person. He's just naive.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he's just not ready for he's just not even ready for this stuff. Like I said with Sean before, what he said before about how there's that scene you said you loved where it's like, oh sir, it's walking now. Like I love that stuff where it's just like their reactions to where it's like, this is certain it will not go on land. Okay, it will not walk. Oh, okay, it's walking now. I love how they handle those scenes.
Or when all of them are like gaining up on the prime minister, and then Kirimoto's character's like, "We need your executive decision now," and he's like, "Now? I need to give it now?" He's like, "Yes, please. Time is precious."
Yeah, I think
I really wish, though, I will say, I wish they left his deleted scene in.
Oh, the one where he
Deleted-
like yells,
Well, the one where he loses his shit.
loses his shit.
I see.
You don't like it?
I like the performance. I just think it's a bit like
Over the
much.
top?
It's a bit
Out of character.
maybe it doesn't feel like earned, if that makes sense. Like I know that he, like, technically on a script level it works, but I think the rest of the movie has like a certain tone, and I think Ono tried to like cut down on the over the top stuff, because like it wasn't just that, like there were other like over the top moments that he like cut out. So I think he was going for a specific tone that was more, let's say, naturalistic, let's say. So I think that outburst, like, great performance, but I think it was a bit maybe not the right tone for the final put together movie, if that makes sense. Like,
That's fair.
in isolation, I think it's pretty good, but I think I don't know where to put that.
That's fair. Well, you mentioned the tone thing, and kind of going back to what you were saying, Mafuni, but he's also funny in this movie. Like, he's really funny. Like, there's little great moments, like when he's talking, again, not trying to get political, he talks with the president. He's like, so many extreme opinions, typically American. Like little stuff like that, I love.
Like
real quick, what's up, Daikaiju Tony? And yes,
I was just thinking.
Yeah, and yes, that was actually a thing that happened where his Rando Yaguchi cosplay made it to Google Images, and it's like there was a point in time where if you Googled Rando Yaguchi, it was just Tony in his cosplay.
I'm gonna Google right now and see if that pops up.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about that too.
Also, yes.
Oh yeah.
Very pretty, just in person too.
What's up, Mark? And
yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
Oh no, I cut off people all the time apparently here, so it's all good. It's what I deserve.
Oh my god, one of the first images that pops up is Tony holding a Shin Godzilla statue dressed as Rando Yaguchi.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, to go on that point, Hasegawa, I think he's really good in this. I think like a comment, I don't know if he's even a criticism or it's like just a thing people notice. A lot of people say how with that whole ensemble cast, I think a lot of people think, this is what I read, again, not my opinion necessarily, just what I've seen. I think it's kind of contrast to like with the older Godzilla movies where you kind of have a more of a focus. So with that focus, more people stand out. I think with this one, a lot of people, I read a few things where people were saying it's not as personal almost. It's not like you can't get like I'm messing my words up. It's almost not as much of a personal like level you get to know these characters because there's just so many and you're kind of like exposed to it kind of from that outsider looking in. But I do really think he's a good lead because, you know, he's kind of like an average person. He's kind of like that person looking in where his father, I believe his father has like big connections in the government and he has a lot of that. He's kind of almost groomed into being that next leader sort of thing that that would kind of be the next step for him. But I do love how he kind of taking this, he has a sort of view where like he is desperate for like a lot of this movie because his superiors don't really know what to do. The people who are his peers in the same age group as him some of them are losing and some of them are keeping their cool, and he's kind of just a lot of it kind of falls to him because he becomes that funny scene where he becomes I forgot all the words for what it says he is. He's the leader of the
unidentified creature person. This, that,
Yeah.
this, that. And it keeps growing as the movie
it
goes
keeps
along.
growing, and all his responsibility just keeps piling on him, and he kind of loses it a bit. And the coincidence, Sean drinking that water with me saying he's losing it, that was perfectly timed shots.
Yagachi. Calm down first.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a great lead for one of the Godzilla movies. I think in 10 years or so, when we look down like all these Godzilla movies we have, I think he definitely will be looked on as like there's a lot of good ones. One of the really memorable ones, I think, to come out of the last 20, 30 years of the series.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah.
And potentially controversial opinion about another main character of the movie, kind of going on with that whole thing of tone or whatever. I don't dislike this character, but I do kind of think in some instances Kyoko and Patterson kind of almost clashes sometimes with that tone.
I think that's not a hot take. I think a lot of people have that same opinion.
No, it's pretty common.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Then I'm under a rock then.
That's a pretty common. No, that's one of the most common criticisms towards Shin Godzilla.
Like, no disrespect to her. Like, and also, I must imagine having to basically say 70% of your dialogue in a language you're not really familiar with is really hard. But I did like the character more toward the end, especially when she's talking with her father about like how if you do this could mess up basically your political career going forward. And I think that's I think a very underrated moment of the movie. I don't see a lot of people talk about that very often.
Oh no, that's a great scene.
Wait. So, real quick, I know it's a bit off topic, but we'll get back to it real quick. But Yoko, did you say you had some hand in the translation department of Shin Godzilla?
Not a lot. There were some. So there was some of the English documents that appear in the film, like when, there's that like quick shot of a document that on the top it reads the origin of Godzilla. Mm-hmm. It's a very quick, like it's in the envelope.
Right.
The codename scene. It's a DOA codenames. That scene.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That one. I edited that document. I actually have the original one in my lap. I actually have the original one in my laptop somewhere. I have the original Word doc that it was made on. But that one I fixed the English a bit because it was a bit not correct. Let's say
we've come a long way from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah's like opening newspaper in English.
Yes, yeah, we can.
Fleeing UFO in the ski.
But I think though it's funny because if I wasn't there, I don't think they were going to give it to anybody. If that makes sense. So they were just like, "Hey Yoko, can you read this document and make sure it's correct?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." And I did, and I was like, "Well, this is wrong." And then there was the English version of the script that they had to hand out to the English speaking actors in the movie, and I had to correct the English in that. And then there was another one where there was the Goromaki has a social security form. It's not in the movie, but it's in the Art of Shin Godzilla book. But he has this form, and Anno's assistant came up to me and she was like, "Hey, so Anno needs this form filled out in English in 3 different ways. One just in plain like print English, one in cursive, and one with your personal handwriting on it." And I did all 3. And the one that's in the Art of Shin Godzilla book is the one with my personal handwriting on it.
Nice.
Oh wow.
Sweet.
So that was
awesome.
That was cool. And anybody who knows my handwriting
and I have that book.
Oh shit! I have it too. It's like page 112 or something like that. But
how expensive is that book?
I'll be sure to go back to it.
Yeah,
how expensive is that book? I've been meaning to get that book.
It's like 100, right?
How does it feel to make something in a movie and you can just point to and saying, "I did that. I did that."
Yeah,
that's me.
And it's really funny because anybody who knows how I write They're like, oh, that's Yoko's handwriting. I know what his handwriting looks like.
Okay, no joke, Yoko. When I got the Japanese Shin Godzilla Blu-ray, when I was watching, don't call me a stalker for this, but I was watching all the behind-the-scenes footage, and I was keeping an eye. It's like, is Yoko in the background in this one scene?
There's 2 parts where I'm in the BTS BTS reel. I did find myself in it.
Are you in that part? You know the part in the beginning of the BTS footage where Ano is, has everyone in like a room and he's like talking about
Yes. I'm not in the shot, but I was in that room. But I'm not in the shot, unfortunately. I'm like just behind where the camera is, which is unfortunate. But
You're still there.
Yep, I was still there, and that day was pretty nerve-wracking because everyone, I don't know, I doubt this is how you do it in Hollywood, but like in that meeting, literally everyone had to stand up and say their name and their job title. And wow. I didn't know that was happening. And then I turned to my fellow PA and I was like, how do you say my job title in Japanese? Because I don't know how to say it. And then he was like, this is how you say it. And then I had to stand up and I was like, I'm Yoko Higuchi. And just saying the last name Higuchi made everyone laugh. So that was kind of nerve-wracking. And then like again, it's standing in front of Ano and Higuchi. So it was like, crap, like don't fuck this up. Like you dumb American, like don't fuck this up. So that was interesting. But I am in the BTS reel. Just you have to have a keen eye and pause, but I'm in there.
Sweet.
Nice.
But I guess though to go back to you, Mafuni.
Oh yeah.
I guess do you still like the character of Kyoko and Patterson?
I definitely do like her more towards the end. I just, like I said, I think sometimes I think that whole kind of tone she kind of brings clashes a bit with what the movie was kind of going with before.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think as the movie, again, not to criticize her at all, the actress, or because I imagine once again having a role where your primary language is one that you're not really used to, I imagine must be really hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think as shit goes on, I think when you kind of peel back, like they said before, the layers, when you kind of peel back that whole kind of layers of what the character and with that scene I mentioned before, I really love that scene a lot because it's like an underrated scene. I think a lot of people don't really talk about that scene when talking about the movie, especially talking about how, not to go into this point too soon, but like kind of going on where it stands with that whole message of how Japan is with other countries. That's kind of a scene that never is brought up, I think.
Right.
Well, again, not only that, but the fact that she's actually one of the people that helps convince some of the politicians to accept outside help from like people like France and Germany.
Yeah. And also, one question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One question for Yoko. Just because I remember this specific English doc. I know this is, you didn't say you worked on this one. But the one where it mentions Kyoko and Patterson's name, the Anne in her name has an E at the end of it, and that doesn't seem to be consistent with a lot of what I've seen a lot of English sites. Is there like a discrepancy with like what Japan considers the official spelling of her name and what America does? Or
yeah, it's weird because I wasn't handed that document, so that one I didn't do. But it is weird because sometimes I'll see her name spelled like even Kyoko like. I'll see like Kayoko and then Kayoko. So it's like something's off. But definitely her first name, Kyoko, should be Kayoko because there's no C in Japanese names for the most part. It's mostly K's if you put it into English. But
oh yeah, I noticed that in that moment when Akira Imoto is reading the document on here. Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Yeah, it's like Anne, like ANNE. I'm guessing that's the name. But for some reason we get different names, classic Godzilla fashion. They're just different titles for things. Great.
Like when you look at the old Godzilla movies, like when it's like a military, like it's when something I think it's against Mechagodzilla and it's G-Force and Hey series, the people's names in English will be really different than how they're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's got that same thing. So I'm like, Sure. I mean, it says Anne in plain English in the movie, so I'm just gonna take that as the name, I guess.
Sure.
So I think there are some ones where like the sub even just spells it two N's instead of the A and N E.
Yeah.
Well, that could just be a sub mistake, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, go on, Sean. I think you were next in this
Yeah.
little thing
Okay.
we're going.
I really love these characters. I think this is one of the best and most well acted human casts in the
Mhm.
entire franchise. Not only does it have the biggest cast of any Godzilla movie, but Japanese cinema period.
Mhm.
And while sure these characters aren't exactly deep, but they have a ton of personality, which
Oh,
to
absolutely.
me, I rather listen. If a character is not like overly complex but has personality,
Yeah.
that's good enough for me. And not only that, everyone's great. Even just like the most minor of characters. I love Rando Yaguchi. Hiroki Hasegawa is superb in this movie. And what's great is like he has a calm demeanor, but then he'll have little moments where like he loses his shit, like the water bottle scene. Also, of all the politicians in the movie, I'd argue he's the one that shows a lot of the humanity. One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is after Godzilla returns to the ocean, is when they're looking over the destruction and how kind of indifferent and cold the other politicians. Like, oh, destruction was bound to happen. They all walk away. Rando just stands there, and then he does a Buddhist prayer.
Mhm.
Also, the Buddhist in me fanboy saying that. I love his chemistry with Kyoko and Patterson. I'm actually glad that they cut out a certain subplot that was originally going to be between them in the script.
Apparently, it wasn't even in the script. It was just a Toho
Mhm.
suggestion.
I'm glad they didn't go that route. I think it was
Yeah,
for the
same.
better.
Yeah.
But then you have moments when there's like Rando kind of acting like you're an everyday person. Like I love when what's his name asks him, "Why did you want to get into politics anyway?" And he's like, "Oh, I like the simplicity of it."
Mhm.
Or the great moment before the final battle with Godzilla. There's that moment when him and Kyoko are walking down the hallway and they give each other a high five, and he's talking about the drones. There's no guarantee of them coming back in one piece. And she's like, "Don't worry, I'll just bill you after the fact."
Mhm.
Like little stuff like that.
Yeah.
I really like Kyoko. I don't think she tonally clashes. I do agree that like you could tell that she learned her lines phonetically, but I think Satomi Ishihara is really good in the role, and above all, I think she gives the movie just the right amount of energy. It adds a little more life to the movie, and also, again, I'm gonna agree with you, Mafuni. I really like her more after Godzilla's atomic breath scene. I think that's when she really shines. I love the
Mhm.
scene with her on the plane with was it her dad or was it President Ross?
No, I think it's her dad because like he
It was her
talks
dad.
with her like in a way that a father would talk to a daughter. I
Mhm.
think. Yeah, it's
Like
yeah.
that's a great scene. Like I love that. Also, I would vote for her. Just saying.
Same.
But then like Renisugi, man. Like I love Renisugi. Like I've seen him in so many movies. That man can act. Rest in peace. He gives that prime minister so much charm, and it's very different from like past prime ministers. Like you have Keiju Kobayashi in Godzilla 84, who was way more like on it, like prepared, like, and he was close. Funny enough, his character in that movie was going to retire, but then Godzilla appears. It's like, actually, we need you. But unlike here, he's prepared because he's clearly, he knows how to handle stuff like this. And the same goes for like the prime minister in GXMG. And then here,
Kira
I
Nakao.
Akira Nakao.
Unless I
Like,
butchered his name.
and never mind. I was gonna make a joke. I'm not gonna go there. But then like I think Renisugi gives a lot of like he really does an amazing job in this movie, and I think honestly, even though this wasn't his last role, it kind of has back me up on this, guys. It has a kind of swan song feel to it, if you know what I mean. There's
Yeah, I think
one
so.
there's one shot, unfortunately, in this movie that, while a beautiful shot, I can't look at the same anymore. It's a shot after Godzilla gets hit with the missiles, and he's just watching.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, like now that he's gone, that really hits differently. And I like the second Prime Minister, Soggy Noodles. And of course, I love all the side characters. Shinya Tsukamoto. I love the guy who the guy who freaks out when he realizes Godzilla has radiation.
Oh yes, that guy.
The famous moment. And who's always taking social media pictures when they're going over the plans. I love that detail. And I love is it Mikako Ichikawa?
Ichikawa.
Is that her?
I was about to say we didn't mention her at all.
Yeah, she's
great.
She's great. She's great. I love her very fast responses. How on it. One of my favorite moments is when she's the one who just proposes, hey, maybe Godzilla's creating radiation. That one guy's like, are you joking around? And she gives him a death glare. He's like, no jokes here. And I love the little smile she gives at the end. Little details like that, I think, add. So, again, I can't hate these characters because I think that they have a ton of personality, and B, I think the actors are really giving it their all in this movie. So, I personally love these characters, and I love the acting.
Just to chime in. Sorry, one more person I think we forgot to mention is Yutaka Takenouchi. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was kind of that sort of Hasegawa's Rando Yaguchi's superior, and I think that he does a good job of that whole kind of mentorish role almost.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's him. I noticed it's kind of he especially becomes that role after Ikirimoto dies, because Ikirimoto's character kind of was also a mentor figure to Hasegawa. He was like, listen, I know you're in this position, but you need to tone back. But then he really takes the cake after, spoiler alert, the old guard politicians get killed in the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that detail as well.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I'm not simping. I am not simping for Kyoko. I'm just praising. I'm giving credit where credit is due.
All right, so
says one positive thing, down horrendously.
Are you serious?
No, I'm joking.
No, I was quoting the movie, dude.
Oh, okay.
But I guys said it best. I mean, it's this is definitely one of the best casts in any Godzilla film. I mean, everyone does a great job, especially Ren Osugi, rest in peace. For me, this is the Godzilla movie that really taught me how to really appreciate its human characters and realize that it's more than just monster action. Like these movies. I mean, depending on which one it is. The characters are the very heart and soul of, again, depending on watching, and it also really helped me look at Godzilla movies in a whole new, different way. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been going on for an hour and 53 minutes. Yoko, are you cool if we kind of open up for Q&A for you specifically?
Of course.
For about 10 or so 10 or so more minutes.
Absolutely. I'm chill. Let's do it.
All right, guys. If you have any not Yoko's for questions for Yoko.
Yoko's for questions.
Any questions for Yoko? Go ahead and put them in the live chat, and he'll answer some of them.
And you guys too. If you guys have any questions as well, I'm more than happy to answer any question you guys have.
Well, we didn't really touch upon this, and I guess I could turn this into a question for you, Yoko, and I guess we can all give our thoughts on this. How did you feel about Godzilla being entirely CGI in a Japanese film production?
Definitely nervous at first, but after the nervousness subsided, I was like, well, it's Anno. He's not going to do it if he didn't think he was going to be able to do it. So I had confidence in Anno and Higuchi's ability to do it, but I was kind of shocked because, again, we had the animatronic for a bit, but we didn't use the animatronic for a lot of shots. It was mostly for the close-up ones. So it did make me nervous, but then I thought, you know what? Like, if these guys say it's going to be all CG, I'm going to trust their word on it.
And that animatron still exists somewhere, correct?
It's got to be somewhere in a warehouse somewhere. Just
It got
like
stolen.
No. That
I think-
it's inside. It's like some Area 51 bullcrap where it's like kept away.
Well, I mean,
society.
it's in my living room, but you know,
Like, you think Toho would like parade that around like the Cybot? They did that thing till it was falling apart. I think.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen. I think the CGI in the movie looks great.
Hell yeah, it looks great.
Here's a funny question from Valerie.
Oh my
What's up, Val? Do people
Oh my
still think
God.
you're related to Shinji Higuchi?
Not
I
any,
do.
not
I
any,
think Yoko's lying.
not anymore, thankfully. But every now and again, I'll still get that question, but not as much as before. But definitely, I think it's gotten worse also because like I recently like met him and took a picture with him, so it leads to that like credence again. Is like, are you related? It's like, no, I'm not related. If we just coincidentally have the last name.
Anyway, Yoko, there's this really there's really talented Japanese director I think you might like. His name is Shinji Higuchi. He puts out really good stuff.
Yeah, I've heard about him. He seems like a really chill dude.
I hear he was a storyboard artist on things like Evangelion. Like, whoa.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I have no
What's up,
idea.
Cole?
I have no idea what Evangelion is. I wouldn't know a thing
Oh
about
my
that.
god.
Shinji Higuchi has glasses. Yoko Higuchi has glasses. They have to be related.
It's got to be connected. It's got to be connected.
And they have goatees. They both have goatees.
Oh, that's true. That is true. You're right.
Real quick, I want to bring up Shay's question. In the climax, when all the different countries help Japan out in the freezing of Godzilla, do you feel that it may have been Anno tipping his hat to Ishiro Honda's old Brotherhood of Man theme?
Oh, absolutely.
I think so.
Yoko?
I think so. I think also Anno, it might be him tipping his hat, but also I would say in general that Anno likes themes of unification. Ava is kind of a thing for that. Although it's not like different countries per se, but it's like different people coming together to solve a problem, or to kind of hammer home an idea or a theme. So I think it could be him tipping his hat, but also it could also be just an Anno trope that he likes to do, where it's the message of just coming together. But it very well could be, to be honest.
Oh yeah, considering how respectful to the original this movie is.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, like I said, the fact that they're accepting help from Germany, France, the United States of America, and it took me to this recent viewing. Shanghai also contributed to the Higuchi plan with supplying the trucks.
Yes.
It took. I just realized that on this viewing.
Mm-hmm. That makes me. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. I was done.
Oh man, this just kind of made me think, going with the whole Shanghai thing. It reminded me of that one scene in GMK that got pretty much cut from the dub and the sub in America, where the one Chinese man in Tokyo, not Tokyo, in Yokohama, basically says he hopes that the Japanese military makes it out okay when they fight Godzilla. And it made me kind of wonder, since I would argue Kaneko and Anno Higuchi made, like, I would argue the most politically, like, kind of, they're the most Godzilla movies, I think, in the past, like, say 20, 30, maybe even since like 84, that are the most like relevant to politics. I want to see them talk to each other about like these movies they made.
Mm-hmm.
That would be. So no, I've seen people kind of put those two either to relate to each other or to like contrast each other, those two specific movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd be curious to see like what each other's thoughts and like how their different takes were, kind of what they saw,
right,
and what they wanted to do. Because they both, again, kind of came out in two very different times for Japan, and they kind of touch upon similar things, I think.
Mm-hmm. Here's one from bonus commentary. What was the on set if you can talk about it.
Hardest? To be honest, they were a lot of the days were hard, to be honest. I can't quite pinpoint a hardest day, but there were like days where, you know, we were doing like the fake Godzilla blood stuff, and you know, all of us were wearing boots and getting fake blood all over us.
Do you have Godzilla blood?
No. Let's put it in a
It's
cup.
like tiger blood.
It's like scooping it up. But you know, like on a set, you're standing for like 16 hours. So a lot of those days were like really rough. And I'd get home at like 10:30, 11 and wake up at 5 or 4 the next morning and then just go back and do it all over again. So it's all kind of a blur, to be honest. Like I don't remember like I honestly can't remember like I did this on a specific day. Like I remember like doing stuff, but I can't remember like what specific days stuff was done. Like all of it just kind of merged into one long day. But you know, just stuff like that, and then you know, doing the explosions, like that was kind of an all day thing where there'd be this like this blue chroma key ball that they'd stick explosives onto, and then they just kind of blow them up one by one, and I'd have to go up to it and then like dab it with a wet towel after they explode. So I'm like trying not to get burned. And then like after that I had to clean like all the debris that came from the explosion. So
Oh Jesus!
a lot of it is like physical labor. So like it was not like at all emotionally stressful, just like really like physically straining work. And then like I'd have to do that and then rush over to the coffee snack desk and then make sure there's like tea, water, coffee, and snacks for everyone. Then go back to dabbing the thing and then like going back to put tea in the thing and then going back. And so it's just like it's all you see is like 20-year-old Yoko running across the studio in like different in different directions doing random stuff. So it's just like that for days and days on end. So I can't really pinpoint a hardest day, but all of the days in between like the filming time, it was like, you know, 14-ish hour days of mostly standing, and you get like a little bit of time for lunch, but you're like working your ass off, but everyone else is working their ass off, so you feel like, you know, it's a team effort. So it's not just you who's like struggling, like everyone else is like giving it their all, like sweating and just going at it. So it was nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine. I have my fair bit of PA stories.
Yeah,
when it
you
comes
know,
to,
yeah.
when it comes to The Summoned, especially for a movie that was being shot during the Texas snowpocalypse.
Yeah.
But let's see. I think we got time for one or two more questions. This one is from Nerd Cage Live. Question for Yoko. Last Wednesday, we forgot to talk about something on your stream. Did you meet the American actors on set?
I didn't. Those guys I did not encounter at all, strangely enough. I only met the Japanese cast, which is strange.
Yeah, you didn't talk with Shinya Tsukamoto. How dare you?
Listen here. Yeah, I've told you this before. I think I'm so glad I didn't know who he was at the time, because if I did, I'd just be like a nervous wreck. So like now it'd be a problem if I met him now, but like then I was like, oh, he's probably an actor. So it's a good thing I didn't know who he was, because I would have been freaking out. But my coworker did say like he's like a famous director, and I'm like, oh shit, like I should probably check it out. And then he put me on Tetsuo, my coworker, and then I was like, oh, this is the guy who made Tetsuo. Okay, now I'm freaking out. But it was like long after shooting, so it's like, okay, so I'm clear and not fanboying. Good, great.
All right, we seem to be. Here's one last question. Nothing really having to do with the film, but black tea or green tea?
Shit, that's actually kind of hard, because like It depends on my mood, but maybe green tea. Maybe. I think it's like the Asian genes called to it.
So yeah, let's go ahead and wrap all this up. Thank you all so much for being part of this, especially you, Yoko, for
No.
coming on
Thank
once
you for
again.
having me.
But yeah, let's all go around and plug our stuff. Starting with you, Yoko, we're our special guest.
Thank you. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter at Resistance0101. You can find my work at youtube.com/The Resistance Films. I have a bunch of short films there. So I'm currently in pre-production for my second feature. So that's going to be a thing that I will be struggling with for the next 3 months. So it's going to be real fun. But
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, so that's where you can find me. And then you can also see my wife in a movie on October 29th. So always check out and support my family, clearly. So yeah, thank you very much.
I'm sick of that meme.
Mafuni.
You can find me on YouTube. My channel's kind of dead now. I've honestly had a bit of a creator's block, but I have a lot of videos on there. A few Godzilla related ones. A lot of them focused on the City Hunter live action movies and some stuff on Jackie Chan movies, which I'm a huge fan of. And thank you for inviting me, Titan Goji. It's been a real blast to finally meet the legendary Yoko Higuchi. Dave's told me so many stories.
I don't deserve that title. But I'm flattered. Thank you so much, and it was great meeting you.
And seeing Sean again after so long.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Yes, Mafuni. This is the man who directed the Attack on Titan movies. He directed a Subversion of Japan remake.
You made Attack on Titan.
Not that other Yoko Higuchi guy.
Yeah, not the other one. Ugh,
You're the guy who made Sayonara Jupiter?
I wish.
Hey, Peter.
Yoko, one day, remake that movie. Get Higuchi's blessing.
Get the McDonald's product placement.
Yeah, he'd probably like cry of like tears of joy probably if that ever happened. Maybe, who knows? It could be in the cards.
And I just want to add something. Mafuni did make a video about Sayonara Jupiter that is very good.
I gotta check it out.
Thank you.
So y'all go check that out.
Thank you, great Titan Goji.
Base Titan Goji.
The legend.
The legend.
It took me so long to realize that your name didn't come from Titanosaurus.
Who is my favorite kaiju from the Godzilla series.
I'm like, this guy's been talking about Attack on Titan like almost all the times I've met with him. It must be Titanosaurus for sure.
Titosaurus.
All right, Sean.
Shouts to Japanese cinema. That's on Twitter. I apologize. I haven't been frequently posting as much. I'll be honest. I'm going through stuff, so I'm not posting on there as much as I usually do. So I apologize.
That's all good, man.
I have a YouTube channel now for Shots of Japanese Cinema. I just made a Godzilla Singular Point Alapu Upila music video in the style of 1954. So check that out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, Shots of Japanese Television, which is also on Twitter.
Shots of Japanese Radio.
Yes, shots of Japanese writing.
So Sean, can I send you some stuff from Mamoru Oshii's radio drama while waiting for the red spectacles for that page?
I feel like I'm gonna get 10,000 copyright strikes if I do that, Davis. Actually, I don't know. Is the radio stuff indie?
I mean, as far as I know, the Kabara saga in its entirety is indie, with the exception of Jinro and Alang.
Well,
it must be obscure enough.
Yeah, but
nobody talks about it, so.
One
Yeah,
day, 10 years from now, you'll see a
great.
copyright strike, and it'll be for that.
But yeah, if you're here, you want to join me, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I also have the Patreon and TeePublic if you wish to support the channel through those means. And I just uploaded a video about Shin Godzilla. So far, it's doing tremendously well. I greatly appreciate the support
great.
everyone's
Watch it.
been.
Yeah, watch it's great.
Thank you. And right now, my next video, since it seems there was a bit of a demand for it because it was a goal on my Patreon, and that goal was met. Next video is about Garo, baby. Keita Amamiya's underground tokusatsu TV series, which was lucky enough to become a franchise of its own. I'm looking forward to talking some Garo next video, and anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in into this episode of TokuTitanCast. Hope you all enjoyed, and yeah, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff.
Who will
Support the
know?
Patreon, TeePublic, and
Persecution of the masses. Who will know?
Cool,
Yeah.
that's Dreams.
Yes, dreams.
oh yeah, Dreams is a beautiful, incredible film. I highly recommend it. So
Yes.
Hell
take
yeah.
care, everyone.
Good night.
Ah.
Take care.